Every October, thousands of people wake up to the exact same surprise. Yesterday, there was nothing unusual outside their house. Today, their windows are covered. Their porch is crawling. Their attic suddenly seems alive. It doesn't happen gradually. It feels like it happened overnight. Maybe you've seen it yourself. One ladybug resting quietly on your windowsill in late September. Small, round, completely harmless, easy to ignore. A few weeks later, that same windowsill holds 30, then 100. They're climbing across your siding, gathering above your front door, disappearing into tiny cracks around your windows. By the time you realize how many there are, they've already been arriving for days. The strangest part? They're almost always heading toward the same corner of your house, the same wall, the same tiny opening, every single year, as if they already knew exactly where they were going. And in a way, they do, because this story didn't begin when the first ladybug landed on your window. It began thousands of miles away, with an instinct millions of years older than your house itself. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why your home suddenly becomes the destination for thousands of insects every autumn, and why, from their point of view, your house isn't a house at all. The first surprise is this: that ladybug on your windowsill doesn't actually belong here. It's Harmonia axyridis, the multicolored Asian lady beetle, and it only lives in your neighborhood because people brought it here on purpose, beginning in California in 1916 and later across much of the eastern United States during the 1970s and 80s. Millions of these beetles were released as natural pest control. The idea worked almost perfectly. A single beetle can consume dozens of aphids every day, protecting apples, soybeans, roses, and countless other plants without pesticides. Even today, many healthy gardens quietly benefit from an insect most people only notice once it becomes a nuisance. But there's something else most people never realize. The ladybug you remember from childhood probably wasn't this one. North America's familiar seven-spotted ladybird has only 7 black spots and a solid black shield behind its head, with 2 tiny white marks. The Asian lady beetle is completely different. It may be yellow, orange, deep red, or almost black. It can have no spots at all, or more than 20. And if you look closely at the pale shield just behind its head, most individuals carry a distinctive black marking shaped like the letter M. Once you've seen that pattern, it's difficult to mistake it for the native species ever again. But appearance isn't what made this beetle famous. Its extraordinary adaptability did. The same traits that made it one of the world's most effective aphid hunters also allowed it to spread across an entire continent. And those same instincts are about to send it somewhere very specific. Long before there were farms, or suburbs, or houses, its ancestors survived winter by flying toward warm, pale cliffs, squeezing deep into narrow cracks and waiting for spring. That instinct never disappeared. Only the landscape changed, because to this beetle, a light-colored house warmed by the afternoon sun looks remarkably similar to the rocky cliffs its ancestors trusted for millions of years. Your house isn't being invaded, it's being mistaken for home. Then something remarkable happens. The swarm doesn't build gradually over weeks. It usually begins on one very specific kind of day. A cold spell passes. The next afternoon turns unexpectedly warm and sunny. And suddenly, thousands of beetles across your neighborhood make exactly the same decision. Almost at once, some of them spent the entire summer in your own garden, quietly eating aphids on your roses without you ever noticing they were there. Now every one of them is flying toward the warmest surface it can find. On most houses, that's the south or southwest facing wall, heated by the afternoon sun. And this explains one of the strangest things homeowners notice. Why is it always the same corner of the house, the same window, the same tiny crack, year after year? The answer is astonishingly simple. The first beetle that discovers a safe hiding place leaves behind a chemical marker. The next beetle detects it, then another, and another. Each autumn, that invisible signal is reinforced by thousands of beetles, returning to exactly the same place. Some of those chemical traces can remain detectable for years, so when this year's generation arrives, it isn't choosing your house for the first time. It's following directions left by generations before it. If you've ever wondered why sealing one tiny gap suddenly stopped hundreds of ladybugs from appearing, this is why. They weren't searching your whole house. They were looking for one address they already knew. Here's the part that surprises almost everyone. Those beetles aren't trying to live inside your house. They're trying to sleep. Every beetle that slips behind your siding or into your attic is entering diapause, an insect version of hibernation. Its metabolism slows. Its body temperature drops. Its entire goal becomes surviving until spring. Most of them never enter your living room at all. A single wall cavity can quietly hold thousands of completely motionless beetles all winter long without you ever knowing they're there. But houses aren't cliffs. They're heated, and that's where things begin to go wrong. The first time your heating system switches on, or the winter sun warms one side of the house, some of those sleeping beetles wake up too early. They follow the light, and suddenly, one appears on your bedroom ceiling in January, then another in February. It feels as though they're invading all winter long. In reality, they've been inside since October. There's one more surprise. If you've ever picked one up and noticed a yellow stain on your fingers, or a sharp, unpleasant smell, that wasn't an accident. When these beetles believe they're about to be eaten, they release defensive fluid from their leg joints. It stains paint. It stains curtains. And predators quickly learn that they don't taste very good. It's harmless to most people, but it's one more reminder that this insect never intended to share your home. It simply mistook it for the safest cliff it could find. There's a longer version of this story that most homeowners never connect to the beetles at all. Every winter, some of the beetles that disappear into your walls never wake up again. Their bodies stay exactly where they died, behind drywall, above ceilings, inside attic spaces you'll probably never see. Year after year, those insects slowly dry out and break apart into fine dust. And because the beetles often gather in the same places every autumn, that dust can become concentrated in the exact parts of the house where they overwintered the heaviest. Researchers and extension specialists have documented that in sensitive people, this buildup can contribute to allergy and asthma symptoms, a cough that always appears in winter, congestion that only happens in one room, a bedroom that somehow feels worse than the rest of the house. Most people never connect those symptoms to insects they haven't seen in months. But sometimes the ladybugs you thought disappeared in October never really left at all. The ladybug you probably remember from childhood may not have been this species at all. The bright red beetle with 7 neat black spots, the one in children's books and drawings, is usually a different ladybird entirely. Long before Harmonia axyridis arrived, North America already had dozens of native ladybird species quietly doing exactly the same job, keeping aphids under control. Then this beetle arrived. It reproduced quickly. It tolerated colder winters. It ate an extraordinary range of prey. And when food became scarce, it didn't stop with aphids. Researchers have documented Asian lady beetles feeding on the eggs and larvae of other ladybird species, sometimes eliminating the very insects they were introduced to work alongside. Over the last few decades, long-term monitoring has recorded sharp declines in several native ladybird species after Harmonia axyridis became established. In some regions, this single species now represents the overwhelming majority of all ladybugs people see. But the story doesn't end there. In late summer and early autumn, when aphids become scarce, enormous swarms begin feeding on soft, ripe fruit. Vineyards are especially vulnerable. Thousands of beetles can gather among grape clusters during harvest. If they are accidentally crushed together with the grapes during wine production, they release defensive chemicals from their bodies. Those compounds are intensely bitter. Winemakers even have a name for the defect they create: ladybug taint. A single helpful predator during summer can become an unexpected agricultural problem by autumn. Nature rarely divides itself into heroes and villains. The same adaptation that makes one species remarkably successful can quietly reshape an entire ecosystem. None of this means you need to fear ladybugs every autumn. It simply means understanding what you're actually seeing. If you want to keep them outside, the timing matters far more than the chemicals. Seal small gaps around windows, doors, siding, vents, and utility pipes before the first cold nights arrive. Once the beetles have already gathered, a vacuum is usually far more effective than spraying pesticides, which often leaves hundreds of dead insects hidden inside the very walls you're trying to protect. And if a few still find their way indoors, don't panic. They aren't trying to build a colony in your house. They aren't laying eggs in your walls. They're simply trying to survive a winter that, for millions of years, they survived inside cracks in sunlit cliffs. Your house just happens to look close enough. That very first ladybug you noticed on your window in late September was never just one insect. It was the first sign of something much larger already happening around you. A change in temperature. Thousands of tiny decisions made at exactly the same time. An instinct older than cities, older than houses, older than people themselves. Every October, your home becomes part of a migration that almost nobody realizes is taking place. Not because the beetles are invading you, but because evolution still believes your walls are made of stone. And maybe that's what hidden nature is really about. The most fascinating parts of nature rarely happen somewhere far away. Sometimes, they've been quietly unfolding on your own front porch every autumn, for years, while you walked right past them. If this video changed the way you see the tiny visitors on your windows, let me know in the comments. And subscribe to Hidden Nature, because sometimes the biggest stories in nature are hiding in places you've stopped noticing.